Alright, the first episode was pretty terrible, but there's no way this series could get any worse. It just keeps getting worse! Seriously, this series just keeps on getting worse with every episode. At no point does it get better. At no point did I say, well, that episode was at the very least tolerable. Every episode is worse than the one that came before it. It just doesn't get better. Every episode is really painful to watch, and by the end of it you'll feel as if you wasted a ton of time, which you could have been using to do anything watching this stupid, terrible series.
As you can gather, he didn't like it.
This is one of the worst series I have ever watched. The story is practically non-existent. The characters are all completely moronic and unlikable. Every episode follows the exact same plot. It completely objectifies women, and its jokes just simply aren't funny. At the very least with Love Hina, it made me laugh once. With this series, I didn't even laugh once. Not even in pity. What this series leaves you with is an unfunny, unentertaining, unlikable piece of crap that I can't believe was ever greenlit. But, do you know what the worst part of it all is? This series was absolutely terrible, and yet it did well enough to warrant getting a second season, both of which were dubbed, with good voice actors in the dubs no less. I mean, seriously, this anime did well enough to get a second season and an English dub. Who in their right mind actually likes this series besides that one 15-year-old living in his parents' basement saying, this anime's got panties and boobies. Who can ask for anything more? I don't think that's exactly a great demographic. Every episode follows the exact same formula. There's a problem of the day, some douchebag monster goes into his true form and tries to murder everybody, the vampire girl goes into her true form and kicks the douchebag monster's ass, and then the problem of the day is resolved. Repeat next episode. I could compare the structure of every episode to freaking Power Rangers, for crying out loud. And the fights at the end have less and less in them with every episode, to the point where it's just the vampire girl's true form simply being there that defeats the monster of the week. Seriously, I'm not even kidding or exaggerating when I say that. In one episode, it's her simply being there that defeats the monster of the week. There's no fight or anything, just her presence there defeats the monster of the week. It was at this point that I seriously started thinking that the thought process behind the creators of this series was simply, hey, as long as we have flashing panties and bouncing boobies, who gives a shit about plot? I mean, this is what people really want to see at the end of the day. We don't need some big epic battle or anything. No, we just need to put in as many flashing panties and bouncing boobies as we possibly can. And the worst part of that is they freaking call attention to how lackluster the final fights are by having that stupid bat thing comment on how short it all was. And for crying out loud, would somebody please kill that bat? Only on 2 occasions did the fights actually last more than a couple of seconds, and even then it was still all about the flashing knickers and the bouncing boobs. Heck, at the end of one episode they actually set up for a big epic battle that's going to take place. And then the next episode begins with the fallout of that big battle. Yeah, that's right, they completely skipped over a huge battle just so they can get back to the panty flashing and bouncing boobs. Like I said before, this series completely objectifies women, but then it has the nerve to call attention to this by having all its male characters be complete meatheads who are like, well, those girls are so totally hot, and they've got big titties. Yes, most of the male cast of School Rumble were like that, but they at least had some male characters that weren't complete douchebags, like Harima, Kurasama, and as much as I'd hate to admit it, Aso. I know some of you are going to argue that Tsukune wasn't like that, but he was. He bloody was. He wasn't as vocal about it, but he was just as much of a perverted meathead as the rest of them. This monster school is the stupidest school in existence. Alright, the no transforming rule, not only does it not make sense, but nobody tries to even bloody enforce it. In every episode, somebody turns into their true monster form. At first, people were finding loopholes in the rule, but after a while, people were transforming right in the middle of their school just to be douchebags, and nobody was doing anything about it. What's the point in having a brutal disciplinary committee if they're not even going to uphold that basic rule? For that matter, their disciplinary committee are known murderers. And yet nobody does anything about that. Are the only rules in this school seriously no saying what you are and no transforming? Is there no regard for any kind of law whatsoever? For that matter, not one, but two of their teachers turn out to be molesters, and nothing is done about that. Does this school run background checks at all, or is their recruitment process seriously, okay, you're a monster, you can come and teach here? Also, one of their students is proven to be a peeping Tom, and yet nothing's done about that either. He doesn't get expelled or anything. Seriously, are the rules about transforming seriously the only rules at that school? Can you not foresee problems with that? Oh, and the whole point of this school is to teach these monsters how to live in peace among human society, but they don't do a good job of that either because most of the students are completely biased towards humans, and the disciplinary committee and the teachers encourage that behaviour. Seriously, is the thought of humans and monsters living together in peace really such a stupid thought? My best friend is a monster and I don't care about that. Okay. If you're going to assume humans are bad just because they're humans, then you're no better than how Takia is about aliens. You're the same xenophobic bastards that you claim you hate so much, you hypocrites. Human, monster, alien, it shouldn't matter. All that matters is the kind of heart that a person has.
Okay.
I could seriously go on and on and on about all that was wrong with this series, but quite frankly, we'd be here all night. So, in summation, this series is awful. It's downright terrible. You should avoid this series like the plague. It is a plague among anime. Avoid it at all costs. Now, I mentioned before that the characters were all complete morons and completely unlikable. They are actually bigger idiots than Shiro Emiya. I'll get back to that point in just a minute. So let's start talking about these characters and why they're completely unlikable, shall we? Let's start with the main man himself, Tsukune. I'm going to be blunt here. Tsukune is a pussy. He is a complete and total pussy. Okay, granted, he's in a school where all the students have supernatural powers that he himself doesn't have, but he's still a little bitch who lets himself get pushed around. Every time I watched him, I found myself screaming to him, "You have a vagina! You have a vagina!" He never does anything but let himself be pushed around like a bitch, only on 2 occasions at the beginning ever standing up for himself. But even after those occasions, he goes back to being a little bitch. Every single character in this series is more manly than Tsukune. Oh, and am I the only one who thinks this kid looks like Chris Thorndike from Sonic X? Seriously, am I the only person seeing this? That makes him even more of a pansy. Oh, and he's also way too trusting and forgiving for his own good, but I'll get back to that point in just a minute. Tsukune is nothing but a bitch and a pansy. How he has 5 women going nuts over him, I'll never know. There's nothing even remotely likeable about this guy. Maybe it's because, unlike the other guys at that school, he's not as vocal about his meatheadedness. So there you have it, Tsukune. You're the best of a bad situation. How does that feel, you pansy? Now let's talk about the leading lady herself, Latte. Now, I thought that...
Wait, did you just call her Latte?
Yeah, I did. Why?
Why exactly? I don't get that joke.
Well, her name's Moka, and whenever I heard that name, I thought of Mocha Latte. So, therefore, I call her Latte. Huh? Huh?
That has to be the worst joke you have ever made. At least with the other characters you were calling them something that at least sounded like their real names. Well, somewhat.
Let it go, Emma. He's already decided that's what her name is.
Yeah.
Anyway, Latte was a complete and total moron. Seriously, this girl is a complete and total moron. I freaking called this in the first episode. I called it. She is a moron! She overreacts to every tiny little thing that goes wrong with Tsukune. She gets incredibly upset and goes off crying if she's not the centre of his affection. She'll overreact and go off crying if she thinks he's done something wrong without even waiting to hear his side of the story. She always assumes that he's in the wrong and gets into a state about it. Oh, some friend you are, Latte! You'd think for someone who was so worried about making friends, you'd be a bit more understanding to the friends you do have. Maybe that's why you had no friends during middle school, because you overreact to everything and never give anybody the benefit of the doubt. You're a terrible person, Latte, you know that. You're a complete and total overdramatic moron. You claim that the accusations that you only like Tsukune for his blood aren't true, and that you truly value his friendship, and yet you overreact to every little thing he does without hearing his side of the story, which just adds to this accusation. You really do only like him for his blood, don't you? Oh, and that whole stupid Tsukune latte, Tsukune latte joke wasn't funny the first time you made it, and every subsequent time you made it, it was just annoying. Alright, the first time it happened I could understand that. You were playing off people's expectations. They think they're gonna kiss and then she ends up sucking his blood. Fine, I let it go the first time. But every subsequent time it happened, it was just stupid and annoying. We all knew what was gonna happen and therefore it was not funny. Repeating the same joke over and over again doesn't make it funnier. Especially when it wasn't funny in the first place. That's something a child does! But anyway, like I said, Latte is a complete and total stupid moron who overreacts to everything and gets upset over nothing without even hearing Tsukune's side of the story. Though, as much as I do hate regular Latte, I do have to admit her inner vampire self was perhaps the only character in the entire series who was even remotely likeable. She was the only character who wasn't a complete and total moron and didn't take any of the crap from the other characters, including her other self. But do you know what the interesting thing is? I don't even think she's meant to be a character that you're supposed to like. I actually think you're meant to dislike in a Latte, but the other characters are so stupid and annoying that she ended up becoming the only character that I could stand. That is bad writing right there. When I like the character I'm meant to dislike, and I dislike the characters that I'm meant to like, that's just poor writing! I hate this freaking series! Kurumu was a complete and total whore, constantly pressing her breasts up against Tsukune and practically stripping for him in some episodes, all to try and seduce him. Always trying to use her breasts to either get Tsukune's attention or to get publicity for their club. Oh, and yet, when she thinks Tsukune was looking at her knickers, she actually gets offended. Can you say double standard? Though, as much as I dislike her, I actually have to admit I think she's a much better partner for Tsukune. Why? Because unlike Latte, while she's initially shocked when she thinks Tsukune's done wrong, she's at least willing to hear his side of the story or put together the pieces based on her past experiences with him to remember what kind of person that she knows he is. She even goes as far as to try and prove his innocence in some cases. She can also cook and provide for him. You know, as much as I dislike her, I actually think she's a much better partner for Tsukune. As much as I really don't want to credit her, she actually does seem to care about the little pansy. But she is still a terrible, slutty character with a double standard. As for Yukari, ugh, the stuff with her really creeped me out. She's only 11 years old, and yet this show still likes to show shots up her skirt. It still likes to have Kurumu make fun of her for having no breasts. She's only 11 years old, for crying out loud. But the worst part is, in one episode she rebukes this by saying, "Mine may be small, but they're of much better quality, which more people appreciate." Who appreciates it? Paedophiles? You're only 11! But she actually does have people fawning over her and stalking her. She's only 11! That is just disgusting. She's 11. Oh, and Kurumu, you claim that your breasts were as big as they are now when you were only 11. If that were actually true, that would mean yours would be considered rather small for your people, wouldn't it? But in any case, why are you taunting her for not having breasts? She's 11! All the stuff with Yukari is really, really creepy. She's 11, for crying out loud! Stop showing us her knickers! She's 11! Misare was just kinda creepy. She's an emo ice girl. There's not really a lot I can say on her because in most episodes she did absolutely nothing until right at the very end. Seriously, she would do nothing. All the other characters would be trying to figure out how they're going to solve the problem of the week, and Misare would do nothing. There's really not a lot I can say on her. She's just a creepy emo ice girl. Now, when it comes to Ruby, there's actually quite a bit I can say about her, surprisingly. Well, at the very least, there's a lot I can say about the character's relationship with her, even though she wasn't in the series all that long. The way the other characters are with her just proves how stupid they all are. Alright, first of all, when she's first introduced, it's shown that she has issues because she's completely open to attacking humans and expresses a strong hatred towards them. She gets a really strong jealousy of Yukari's friendship with the other characters, so much so that she almost kills Tsukune. And yet, in the very next episode, they're completely willing to welcome her into their friendship group. She nearly kills Tsukune, and everybody, Tsukune included, is completely okay with welcoming her into their friendship group. She refuses, goes back to her master, and then tries to kill everybody. But Tsukune discovers that her master has in fact been dead for years, which shows that she's delusional. When this is revealed, this finally pushes her over the edge into complete insanity, and then she proceeds to mercilessly try and kill them. Once they finally defeat her, they think she's done for good, only to find her inexplicably fine and unharmed, and then they're completely willing to welcome her into their friendship group again, even though she's a delusional psychopath who tried to kill them. You people are all complete morons. She deluded herself into thinking that her dead master was telling her to kill people. She went out to try and kill you all. She went completely insane. She used the entirety of her powers. She held nothing back. She was going to kill you. Heck, she almost did kill Tsukune. Not to mention the fact that she kinda looks like Juri from Super Street Fighter 4, who's a psychopath in her own right.
This series came out way before Super Street Fighter 4, you idiot.
And yet you're completely willing to welcome this clearly unstable girl into your friendship group? What's wrong with you people? This is what I mean by saying these characters are even bigger idiots than Shiro Emiya. I hate this freaking series! I guess I should comment on Gin because I know some of you are going to ask what I thought on him. The guy is nothing more than a scumbag, plain and simple. He's nothing but a lousy, bloody pervert. He's complete and total scum. That's all I have to say on him. Well, that's what I thought on the cast. Well, on the people who are worth commenting on anyway. Now, as for the dubbing, it simply amazes me how such a terrible series can have really great dub actors in it. Seriously, this series has people such as Todd Habercorn, Colleen Clickenbeard, Brina Palencia, Monica Rial, Leah Clark, Jason Douglas. These are all really good people. Why are they doing voices in such a terrible series? It simply amazes me how a series as terrible as this can get an English dub with such great voice actors when there's anime that are considered all-time masterpieces that still to this day haven't gotten dubs. It simply boggles the mind. But anyway, I've gone on about it long enough. This series is just simply awful and you should avoid it like the plague. Now, people have told me that the manga is a lot better, having more plot, more character development, and that the anime just simply doesn't do it justice. So let that speak wonders for how terrible this series is. Even fans of the manga hated the anime. So how did it do well enough to warrant a second season and an English dub? I seriously can't believe that this terrible series is going to be the last anime that I watched this year. Well, in any case, I'm sure the anime I'm going to kick next year off with is going to be much better than this one. I'm not going to say what it is, but I will say it's an all-time classic. You're just going to have to wait and see what it is. So, I've watched 5 anime this year. 2 were good, 2 were awful, and 1 I suggest watching for yourself and seeing what you think of it. Of all the anime that I've watched this year, my favourite was without a doubt Ah My Goddess. It was just a simply amazing and well done and heartwarming series, and I can't recommend watching it enough. Trust me, you will be glad that you watched this series. Well, hopefully next year will be much better as far as watching anime goes. Anyway, I'll see you guys around Christmas time.
I won't, because thankfully I'm going to visit my sister this Christmas, so I'm getting away from this place. Hooray!
Oh, and it's going to be so lonely without you here, Emma. What this series leaves you with is an unfunny, unentertaining, something. What this series leaves you with is an unentertaining, What this series leaves you with is an unfunny, unentertaining, I can't remember the third Seriously, I'm not even exaggerating or something. Heck, at the end of one episode they set up for this... ow. Bit my tongue. Ow. Heck, at the end of one episode they set up for this big, epic battle that's going to take place, and then at first people were finding loopholes in the rule, but... and for that matter, not 1, but 2 of their teachers are... Oh, and the whole point of this school is to try and teach these monsters how to live peacefully among human society, and... I forget how the rest of this part of the speech goes.